And now I'd say that there's nothing that I would have done better. So I say now that I am a teacher by calling, by training, by passion. And my husband talked about purpose, and my purpose, anything to do with the child, the young people, you will find me in the middle of it, because I understand that that our children are the future. And the Bible says that our children are arrows that we send into the future. So that is who I am. So once I graduated, so I went to Kenyatta University for training, and I was training in linguistics. And when you're training in linguistics, you're supposed to go to the language lab so that you can hear how sounds are articulated. Okay? So we were a class of about more than 2,000 students. The lab was built to take 80 students because they had never upgraded it from the days when KU was a university college. So we just used to pass outside the lab and they'd be told, here is the language lab. 4 years down the line, I graduated, never had gone to the language lab. And so I showed up in the field as a teacher, feeling very incompetent. You heard that the purpose of education is to build competence. So I say, Kenyans, you speak the English that your teacher knows or does not know. Your English teacher, okay? Depending on what. Did you hear that we did not go to the language lab? So we don't even know what we are supposed to be teaching. So yeah, so I landed somewhere in Wala, teaching a Form 4 class, a Form 1 class, and the teacher that I was replacing had been interdicted for drunkenness, so he was not showing up in class. So I have a candidate class. These guys had not even touched Form 3 work, and I was supposed to prepare them for the exam that year. So I remember the first time I went, no textbook, no set books, nothing. Not for Form 3, not for Form 4. And I had times to prepare students. So what I did, I came back to the city, I bought all the books that I needed, teachers' books, pupils' books, set books for 2 years, out of pocket, and I began to teach like a mad woman. I would be teaching at lunchtime, I would be teaching at prep time, I would be teaching during break until the students got tired of me. And and my colleagues used to ask me, are you being paid double? Why are you working so hard? And I told them, actually, I have 2 bosses. One is the Lord Jesus Christ, and the other one is TSC. And I answer first to the Lord. So I worked very hard that year, and my Form 4 class attained a main grade of D. And the headmaster was very excited because it was long since they ever saw a D. In fact, on account of that, he actually now, the day I went to hand in my resignation, I found him writing a recommendation to TSC that I should now be promoted to the head of department. Because I was like, why? So we have not seen a D in this school for many years. That's a story for another day, but I think that's where the passion for my children must go through something different. First of all, I came face to face with the reality of education inequality in this country, because I can assure you that those students did the same exam that Alliance Boys did, that other premium schools had done. And so it just occurred to me that there's a lot of inequality, and it was then that I began to think about what alternative do I have? And of course, my own teacher training experience of needing to have received a certain set of skills that I never did, because the resources were not available and somebody was not committed to ensure that they turn out a competent linguistics teacher to the students. So that has been my journey. That was my journey. That is what bore the passion within me to make a difference in education. And I began to search. I was not married. I didn't have children. But in that year, I decided that the day I get children, they will get something better than I did. So fast forward, it's now been 10 years since we started Almasi School. This year we celebrate our 10th anniversary. And it's not been easy. There's somebody who told me that Christianity and business don't go together. And so whenever I go and I say that my business is struggling, they always tell me, why don't you begin an intro wing? That one will bring you the money. And then you can do your Christian thing on the side. And I've always told them, no, that is not what God has called me to. I will stay here until this thing makes sense. And by God's grace, we are still doing what we're doing. Our children, we have a 21-year-old, 13 and 14, 17 and 13, and our daughter is actually going to graduate out of university in November. Having gone through the AC program from standard 1, grade 1 up to the equivalent of Form 4, it was grade 11. Now it's grade 12. Our son just graduated, grade 12, same system. Hopefully, by God's grace, he's joining university locally. He wants to study law, like his father. And our last born is beginning high school. So that one she was Almasi's first kindergarten child. So she started from the bottom and has 4 academic years left. So I'm just here to tell you that SE works. It works. When we began over, how many years ago? 2006 is when our child joined grade 1. When we began, people used to tell us that out of Ukristo mwingi, we have now decided to brainwash our children and to make them pastors like ourselves. That's what they used to tell us. So at that point, nobody had graduated out of the C. It was very new, but I kept saying that, Christianity tells us, the Bible tells us that we live by faith. And I said, God, these children that you gave us, that you told us to teach according to your ways and they will not depart from it. By the time we get there, where they need to transition, you will show us what to do. And can you hear the child is graduating now? Yes. And she is graduating from a local university. She didn't have to go away. But my testimony has been that when my child went to the university, it was a Christian university, it is a Christian university, she went into a culture shock. Okay? Because, first of all, they were given a paper to compile, term paper. Okay? And she told me, Mom, we were given this assignment, we were supposed to do it. I asked him, she told me, first of all, I volunteered to be the group leader because I will not have any badly written paper with my name on it submitted to any teacher. So she assigned people and, she asked people for references, citations. That is what people do in the university. So she came and told me, Mom, look what people have sent me. References, YouTube, internet. Those were the references that she was supposed to cite at the bottom of her paper. So she was in culture shock. And so a lot of the term papers that her group members, she did as a group, she basically worked on it single-handedly. And her next question was, Mom, these people did not work. Should I put their name on the paper? Because they are writing culture shock. So she went to the exam room in 2020 after the lockdown, and they were doing online exams, and her classmates started reaching out to her because she quickly stood out as a choppy of the class. Never missed a lecture, always took copious notes, and then she would write them in pencil so that she can rewrite them in ink as she revises. And so people were like, who does that even? And she's like, but this is what I was taught. So during the exam, people started asking her to send her pictures of her answers so that they can record the same. All right? And she's like, but why are these people behaving strangely? And I told her, my friend, you are the strange one. That is how exams are done in this country. You are the strange one. Okay? And she said, but I can't do it. I said, yes, that's the right thing to do. So she also became a snob because she would not freely share her knowledge with her people. But I'm just saying that it was a culture shock because she came from a system that taught honesty, and she landed in a space, even in a Christian university, where honesty was not upheld as a value. So it's been quite a journey. Just sitting back and looking at this is the fruit, this is the return on our investment as a parent for choosing a Christian education for our students, for our children. And what I can say is that I could say a lot, but I'd also say something else that maybe the pastor alluded to when he was preaching. That any nation is as good as its education system. When I taught in government, in the public school, so I taught in that place, I told you, Itikone, there was absolutely no commitment to work. Those stories you hear about, I reported to work, I hung my jacket, on the seat and disappeared. I saw those things firsthand. And that's why my colleagues used to wonder whether I am earning a double salary and why I am working so hard. Because these children will fail anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. So such apathy. And then I left, when I got married, I left, my husband and I had agreed that I would leave work. So I left work, I came to the city, and 4 years down the line, we needed money, so I went back to teaching, and I got employed at a private school in Nairobi. And so, that is the other thing that I saw, that it was a private school, it was business, how you make business, how you make money running a school as a private school owner is that you post the marks. I don't know if it happens here in Machakos, but where I stay, once the KCP results are out, school buses are all over the place with vuvuzelas, having posted marks on the bus. Do they do it here? Yes. Oh yeah. And does that influence your choice of where you're going to take your child? Yeah. And so we talk as parents. How do you decide where your child is going? Just let's be honest. See, how do you decide where your child is going to school? How they perform? Marks. Do you ever ask yourself about the culture of that school? Do you? You ask yourself. So between culture and marks, who wins? Marks wins. So again, just thinking about that. So anyway, I'll tell you now what happens in the background. So I was employed, and of course there were teachers, my fellow teachers. There was an exam officer in the school who was responsible for procuring exams. And what then they would do, teachers would pay the exam officer to know where the exam is coming from, to get a leakage. You teach the children the exam, and then the children, of course, take the exam that they were taught previously. And what happens? Of course, you get miracles in the name of very good marks. And the school owner posts those marks on the bus and goes with vuvuzela around the town, and they get more clients, and the teachers get a promotion because their students performed very well. Isn't that so? So it's a crazy cycle. And the parents parents are the biggest sponsors of education malpractice. They're the ones who contribute money and tell the head teacher, mwalimu, do what you have to. Sisi tunataka nini? Tunataka wazazi, tunataka watoto wetu wa pass. And so from that experience, I realized that we may set up all the EACCs we want, but we shall not deal with this thing called corruption, because it is grown in our classrooms. Your 4-year-old, your 10-year-old who is having to sit an exam, the school I was teaching in then only had class 4 to 6. And so how I knew that people, collude with the exam officer is that I was now invigilating a class that I was not teaching. And as I handed out the exam paper, the children were giggling. This one we did yesterday. And they were like, yeah, we're gonna pass this exam. All right? And what will make that class 4-5 student not pay somebody to write their paper when they're in the university? What will make them not? Yeah? What will make them not buy a degree? Because when we were serving in church many years ago, a man got saved, and his dilemma was that he bought his bachelor's degree. And based on that fake one, he got a master's degree. So he came to us and said, Pastor, the Holy Spirit is convicting me. This paper that I have used to ascend down up my career is fake. What do I do? What did you tell him if you were me? That God overlooks, that his sins are covered and forgiven. What did you tell them? Professor, what did you tell that man? He can do a genuine one. Yeah, that's what he did. He went and surrendered his fake papers and started up again because the Lord convicted him. So basically what I'm saying, I'm telling you these stories to tell you that there is rot in the system. And we have come out of an election campaign. People were debating whether they have papers or not. Did you hear that? Did you see that? Isn't it sad that we should be arguing about you needing to prove that you are actually educated, that you actually got academic credentials? It means the rot runs really, really deep. And so what are we to do? The Bible says when the foundations are shaken, because the foundations of our education in our country have been shaken. What are the righteous to do? What are the righteous to do? There is a lot that we can do, and my personal take with our husband is that we may not make a difference for the thousands of Kenyans, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Kenyan students who have no choice but to go through the public education system. But for the 3 that God has given us, do we have control over those ones? Can we make a difference for those ones? And so for us, it was always very clear that the biggest heritage that we can leave our children is a legacy of faith. And I want you to do some mathematics, because this week, Kenyans have been doing a lot of mathematics. Sindio? Zingine zimeshinda. Kenyans and stats, unajua maths is not maths. The way a statistician does maths is not the way that simuona hizo story mingi. Sasa wacha tufanye hesabu hapa kidogo. At what age do your children go to school? 3, 4 years, isn't it? At what time do they leave? What is the age of exiting? Basic education is primary and secondary. So at what point do they exit? 18 years. Okay? So they entered at 3 and they exited at 18. So how many months in a year do they go to school? 9 months. How many days a week? 6. Yeah. All right. How many hours in a day?
10 hours.
Around?
10 hours.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say 8. The ones we can say the school opens at this time and it ends at this time. 8 hours. All right? So, on average, by the time they are 18, how much time, percentage-wise, their entire life have they spent in school? Percentage-wise. About 75%. Isn't that so? So 75% of your entire life, at around the time you are 18 or 17, you have spent in school. Isn't that so? Is that significant? Have you ever thought about it that way? What does that make you think? Are you even thinking right now? What does that make you think? Tumefanya hesabu. Sio hesabu yetu iko sawa? Sio kama ya cherera, ndio. 75%. So, what does that make you think as a parent? This is not a rhetorical question. I actually want some answers. Please put your hand up. Yes. It has made you uneasy. Why? Yeah. Other things. Okay. So that parent is very uneasy. If you are uneasy like him, you can say, me too. All right? Somebody else? Yes, ma'am. Sir? Yeah. Yes. That child, and what about your share of influence over that child's life as a parent? Who is the real parent? It is your teachers. So, kindly look at the parents sitting next to you and tell them, your child's teacher is your co-parent. Hey, in case you did not know. See, that is a child, that is it. If by the time you're 18, I have spent 75% of that child's entire life with me, am I not the real parent of that child? Yeah, I am. I am the principal parent. Isn't that so? Yeah. And so, when our child went to grade 1 somewhere, he came home saying, Red Rory. So my co-parent taught him that. and me, the English teacher, I tried to correct the child and tell him that it is not Red Rory, it is Red Lorry. And he told me, Mom, teacher said so. And hapo nikajua niko na compare as a parent for who is teaching my children, who is influencing them. And so I decided Our goal as parents is to ensure any good parent wants to leave a good legacy for their children. Not so. What legacy are you hoping to give your children, by the way? Ebusha, Pasi, what legacy? Education. Najua mnasema education because we're in an education seminar. Lakini mngetaka kusema kaploti, si ndio? Si watu wa Talanta. Okay. Sorry? So, exposure. Okay, very good. So, basically I'm saying that day we decided that we are going to align our competition. Our competition is who? Co-parent, also known as school, with our values. And our values, one of the greatest things that you can give to your children is not an education. It is a rich legacy of Christian faith. Or doesn't that matter to you? Doesn't it matter to you that your child, the scripture says, what does it profit a man that he gains the whole world, even educationally, academically, yet they lose their soul? And so my challenge to you is this, parents, that the mandate that God has given you over your children, the found in Deuteronomy, says, these words of the law shall not depart from your mouth. You shall teach them to your children. When? As you stand, as you sit, as you lie down, you shall write them on your doorpost. God says those things, but I don't know whether we take them seriously. The Muslims take, I don't know that verse is in the Quran, but they take the impartation of their faith very, very seriously. Some of us here, in ACE, we tell children to memorize scripture because it is the foundation of everything. And parents will write back to us and say, please, you are overburdening our students, our children. Punguzeni hizi verses. They are too many. So I want us to think about our mandate. And what are we doing? Are we living out our mandate as Christian parents to hook up our children with education that will serve them even into eternity? Even into eternity. I want to very quickly, before I present, I do a presentation on ACE, and I will so. We were supposed to project something. Is it still possible? It is. So I want us to just talk about education that is Christian, and very, very quickly, just to give you, what is Christian education, by the way? Do you have a Christian education department here? So what do? Mostly it's discipleship. Yeah? Okay? Parents, what do you do to give your children a Christian education? Please share. I know most of you will say you send them to Sunday school, 2 hours every Sunday, once a week. That's all the Christian education you give your children. What Christian education do you give your children? Did you hear that the biblical mandate is to teach them the word of God as you sit, as you stand, as you lie down, you write it on your doorpost everywhere? Did you hear that is the mandate? As we rate ourselves, how can we say we are fulfilling that mandate? Are we doing badly? Or are we doing, what are we doing? How are we doing? Not so well. Okay? So really I'm not here to take you on a guilt trip. It's just really to help us reflect, because we still have time, and time that we can use to mold our children. Let me just tell you very, very quickly what education is. It means to educate, means to train and to mold. Okay, to train and to mold. That is from the original Latin word. To bring up to and lead out or draw out. And as I read out these definitions, I want you to rate our education system in your mind and see how much does it do this. And then it talks about it's something that should come from the inward to the outward. So knowledge goes in. You know, the Bible tells us that the fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom. The same Bible tells us that faith does not come except that we hear it. So there are levels of knowing. So we begin with awareness. You become aware of the concepts of either subtraction, addition, whatever it is. And then you understand. You're able to do maths and say, okay, in this case, I need to apply the subtraction principle or the addition or the multiplication one. You have understood. And then wisdom now comes to the point where you're saying, in real life, how does maths follow me? You know, we banned chemistry books after exams, didn't we? And because we banned them, how many of you ladies still use panga soap and detergent in the same whatever, karai? Yani unasok nguo na omo. Alafu ndio usave pesa unatumia panga soap. How many of us do that? Ni sawa tu. Nobody is going to stone. So do you know the basic composition of omo and panga soap? One is alkaline, the other one is acidic. If you attended the chemistry class, when alkaline meets acid, what happened? Neutralization. So have you saved money actually? No. So in that very basic example, we have stopped at, we have not moved from knowledge to understanding to wisdom. Because you need to choose. You either use the panga soap itself or you use the omo by itself. Lakini sisi tuna mix everything because we want to save money. You should also know that if the water is hard, don't use the panga soap. Isn't that so? But we ask ourselves, how do you know water is hard since it is all fluid? Do you know? Okay, sorry. You banned the chemistry books, I'm sorry. But I'm just trying to say, people, okay. All right, people. So I'm just trying to say that wisdom needs to move from the point of knowing to the point of understanding to, no, you acquire knowledge, you gain understanding, and you apply to become wise. So are we wise people? Are we educated people? If you think about the levels of knowing, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, are we wise people? Do we walk in wisdom all the time? Not really. Okay, I come in peace, by the way. Sijakuja kuwafuruga. I come in peace. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we have different worldviews or schools of thought about education. We talk about, I know CPC is now trying to talk about character or values-based education, and says that those who talk about a character-based education, they say that you need to form character, you need to mold, you need to build in certain competencies. But for us as believers, I want to submit that we need to to understand that the whole purpose of education should be for our children to understand their purpose in Christ. Once you understand what your purpose is, why God created you and put you on earth, then you will not make career choices that are based on selfish needs. But we will not push our children as parents that you see, you can't pursue community development because accountants get paid well. Community development people don't get jobs. See, I'm not saying that's what it is, but isn't that how we talk about the future with our children? We talk about what will selfishly benefit them. We don't talk to them about what is your purpose? How has God created you? What is it that you need to do? And so we have this incidence where a lot of our children go through an education system, gain a degree and pack it and say, here ilikuwa ya mom na dad, now let me follow my heart. Do you know young people like those ones? I was reading a paper recently about the alarming rate at which students at the university are leaving courses undone because what they signed up for does not agree with their mold and their make. Okay? So think about those things. I want to give you a lot of food for thought. And maybe some of our children are out of the school system and they are probably now pursuing career. But I believe that as you listen to what I have to say, there's still an opportunity for you to influence that child. If you have moved into the area of grandparenthood, you still have an opportunity to minister to your children, your children's children, and influence them in the way that you ought. I'll stop there in the interest of time. I can talk about education. Okay, so I'm waiting for this to go on so that we move together. But in the meantime, maybe I can take a few. Please let me know when this goes up. Is everything okay? Okay, so. All right, any questions, any comments as we wait for this to go up? Questions, comments, thoughts, reflections? Pastor, you told these people not to talk to me. They're eager to hear more. Questions, comments? Questions, comments? Yes, there's a good brother at the end there.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Probably what I may want to ask you, I've just come in, maybe you might have mentioned it. What would be your opinion of the CBC as it is?
Okay. I want to be very, very sensitive to the situation on the ground, as we like to say. Not everybody has an opportunity to look for options. Isn't that so? Number one. Number two, in as much as I'm saying that I came out of a broken system, see what any graduates for your system. And we are not doing too badly generally in life, so I would not want to stand here and trash the CBC and trash the 844 because it is what is public, its pros and its cons. Think about the British. You never hear them moving from CBC to this to that. My opinion is that education has been politicized in our country. And it forms somebody's agenda, big four agenda. So education was one of those. Yeah. And somebody needs to make a point from a political perspective. And so you have all of these very good plans, very good thoughts. At one point I worked for the late Mrs. Masika, who was the PS of education in the era of Moi. And they were amongst the people who crafted the 844 system. And she kept telling me, this system was wonderful. The things that we wanted to do with it were amazing. But she says, when the politics comes in, it throws everything. So you interfere with implementation. So the problem with CBC, I would say, is that there was a timeline for us to roll out CBC. Okay? So did you train the teachers? Who are the primary drivers of this curriculum? It's the teachers. Recently, I had a supplier of CBC material in the school next door come and sign up his child in our school. And he told me, let me tell you how I got to this decision. As a supplier, he's not a teacher, he's a business person, producing educational material. And what he told us is that he went to supply books in that school, and the teacher was asking him, Sasa, hii tutafanya nini nayo? How are we supposed to use this material? Then he said, Allah, see how do you see what the teacher, you don't know what to do with what you have told me to bring. And he said that is the day he moved house from Utawala and brought his child. He said, this one, where the teacher does not know what to do, I shall not risk with my child. Okay? So I would say that the systems, at the end of the day, whether you're in the British system, the academic, the American, SE is American, wherever you are, content is content. Math is math, English is English, biology is biology. However, there are systemic issues that make one system appear more stable and more credible than the other. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I will not say that CBC is a bad curriculum. I'd say that they're trying to build competence, but were we prepared for it? No, and that is why there's a lot of confusion. Before they implemented CBC, they actually came to learn from us who are in ACE. We had people come to visit us, see what we do, because they said they were about to produce material and they wanted to see what we do. So the heart is in the right direction. The implementation, I'd say that's where we fail. So CBC is not a bad curriculum. If that is all you have, and I know that sometimes economic realities may not be able to avail you another option. If that is where you are, work with what you have and trust God to minister to your children wherever you are. But I'd say that if you have an opportunity to provide your children with something that is more aligned to your value as a parent, to align your family to kingdom values, then pursue it. So I don't want anybody to leave this place feeling that they're really done for and they have no options. Is there a problem? Okay, I'll just then try to, I'm sorry about that hitch. So let me very quickly talk about the AC system. First of all, it's American. It was established in 1970. How old is it now? About 52 years of implementation. And I'll just do a quick contrast between the ACE and what it is that is offered nationally. So I'd say number one, in terms of philosophy, the philosophy of education. And the philosophy is really, what is the goal? What do we want to achieve with this education system? For ACE, there is a very deliberate and intentional mandate to produce not just a child who is sharp here, but a child who holds kingdom values. So it's a biblically based curriculum. And the Bible is not taught, as a subject 3 times a week, CRE, but it is at the center of everything. It is fully integrated into the academic content. For example, you will talk about how many apples there are in the very lower classes, counting apples, but you will also talk about the God who created that apple. Okay? In the process. Another one pace for class 5 science, where they were talking about basic principles of chemistry, about how when you put 2 elements together, what you get is a totally new element. And they say this chemistry principle applies to the principle of regeneration, spiritual regeneration. That when a man comes and joins himself to Christ, he is a new creation. So they're taking factual information, chemistry, science, not diluting it, and saying how does it apply to the Christian walk. So full integration of biblical truth and principles and knowledge. Number 2, I'll talk about methodology. How do we deliver the curriculum? In this country, you know that when the teachers go on strike, can the children go to school? No, because the curriculum is teacher-driven. It is a teacher who has goals to accomplish. One of the things that we teachers have to do is come up with schemes of work. These days, I hear you can buy. They're on the internet. In our days, you had to sit down and write for the whole term. Lesson plans, records of work. You have goals to accomplish. The syllabus lazima iishe. And you're told to send your children to school on Saturday so that they can do what? Finish the syllabus. So the teacher has goals to accomplish. Okay? And that is why teachers are promoted if their children pass, because the interpretation is that you have implemented the syllabus successfully, the children that you're teaching have been successful at the academic assessment. In ACE, we say that learning is the responsibility of the learner. It is learner-centered, learner-driven. So every child, and I think there's a classroom here, and you can visit it if you haven't, every child comes to school and has their office. So we talk about student offices. Everyone has an office. They come in the morning, every day they set it. So it's learner-driven, it is self-paced. Students learn at their own pace. It's individualized. The other system is that we call it lockstep. Everybody must move at the same pace, and it must end at a certain time of the year. The academic year ends at a certain prescribed time. Okay? With ACE, we say that learning is constant and time is a variable. So I can, today, Sunday, Friday, I could have been in grade 5. And if I finish my grade 5 work and I'm successful at it, on Monday, I will be in grade 6. So time is a variable. Now, in 844, you're given a calendar. The school year will begin. Can anybody begin it earlier or later? No. So we say that time is constant. And at the end of the year, whether you have mastered content or not, you move. Okay? You move. And what happens is that how we enroll children into ACE is that we do a diagnostic test, and it's a diagnosis. We are saying that, what have you learned? We are trying to diagnose learning gaps. And learning gaps is something that either you didn't learn, you're not exposed to, you didn't master. For example, when I was in Form 3, I got sick when my class was being taught the Pythagoras theorem. And hiyo kitu nimeshika tu recently when I was trying to teach my child. So I carried that learning gap for me for the rest of my life. Nobody bothered to know that Sophie was not in class on Wednesday. Let me revisit this thing. So you carry learning gaps. And we all have learning gaps. Things that we never, it's all very good. Okay. Okay, so I think they are running it from a different machine. So I will coordinate and see. So I'll just be giving you the cue to go to the next slide. So you can go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, there's a screen. That is great. I need to change my specs though. Yeah, but keep it on. At least it will help me coordinate what I can see there and here. So I think that's a brief overview, like I was saying. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, let me just go on. We'll catch up when they catch up. So I was saying that in terms of methodology, we diagnose a child, we start with them where they are, we address the learning gaps and move on. So very individualized. Then there is what we call mastery. Mastery, that you move to the next level once you have mastered the current content. So it's mastery based. All right? Did you hear that with this other system, when the time is up. We all move on, regardless of whether you mastered it or not. So mastery is key. And how do we talk about mastery? So there are, in what I call conventional education, there are assessments, there are quizzes, there are ways of measuring learning that the teacher administers. So when the books that come for ACE have inbuilt assessments. So you have checkups. So whenever a concept is introduced, then you have a checkup, and a checkup is a student's understanding of that concept. So in a book, you will have about 3 checkups for every key concept. And then you have what we call a self-test. And a self-test is a student's own measurement of understanding of the content in that particular unit that they were dealing with. And then after that, you have a pace test. So again, another difference is how do you measure assessment? For what we are offering locally, 844, and in a sense still CBC, although they're trying to move away from that, is that it's exam-based. One exam is the one that determines what your competence level is. Okay? For this one, it's cumulative. It's almost what we do at the university or college. At the end of the day, your performance is a cumulative measurement of your performance throughout. So you get a transcript that is on the grade points average system, GPA system. So that is one of the key differences. And then the other thing about it, of course, is the issue of individualized, that the child who is slow is able to progress at their pace. The child who is fast and gifted academically is able to accelerate at their own pace. So we say that in ACE, every child is a winner because you're given ample time to do what you need to do. I'm trying to see. Okay, this is very technical, a bit. Distinctives of ACE. Okay, please go to the previous slide, slide number 5. So there's individualization. I've tried to, explain that. Diagnosis, where you will have an interview to see how the child fits, whether it is in class 3, 4, but here we have diagnosis. So we allow you to, we first address the learning gaps and then you go on at your own pace. There's mastery learning, where we say that learning is constant. You progress as you master content at the current level. Then there is character development. And the preacher talked about character development. How is character development done? So every pace has 3 goals, objectives. There is the academic, where you have the objectives that need to be learned, whether it is a concept in math, English, whatever. And then there is a character development goal. So by the time a child has gone through work for a year, they had learned the definition of at least 60, now they call it the 90 character traits, whether it is goodness, whether it is faithfulness, whether it is loyalty, whether it is whatever it is, we call them the 90 character traits of Jesus. So they learned the definition of that character, they learned the biblical reference for that character. So that is how we develop character development. We do character development. And then there's cutting edge technology that you can, it's very tactile. The reading and comprehension skills of a child who's gone through SCE is very high because that's the skill that you draw from the most. And then of course I've talked about the biblical values. Next slide. We talk about goal setting, that as much as we are saying that it's self-paced, it's not, a child cannot just show up in school one day and decide, today I want to do 2 pages of math. No. There's a goal. There's that a year's work is covered by completing a certain workload. Our workbooks are called cases. So for you to finish a year's worth of work, an academic year's worth of work, you do 72 cases. So it's the yearly goal. You break it down to what is my termly goal. So we run 3 terms, so 24 cases every term. And then you take those terms and you say we run on average 60 to 55 days of school every year before COVID, before Magoha and everything else. This calendar, 60 to 55 days of a term. So you say, if I have 24 goals to complete, and I have 60 days within which to complete, how much work must I do every day to make sure that at the end of the term, I have done my 24 cases? And that is what goal setting is about. So the children actually work through their goals. So at the end of the term, you come to school, we give you an academic projection for work for your child for the next term, and then we break it down. And that's what Pastor was referring to, that the children learn how to set goals. And what happens is that you're developing character. You're developing character in that you're teaching that child a very important life skill of self-leadership, of time management, of self-control, because if you don't finish your work, it will go away at the end of the year. If I don't finish my class 4 work and the year has come to an end, see, that one goes away. And then we begin, class 5 goes away, quote unquote. So homework in our system is unfinished goals for the day. So it is possible for a child not to have homework. And parents in this country cannot understand why mtoto hana homework leo. Shule haifanyi mwalimu hasomeshi mtoto vizuri kwa sababu mtoto amekuja bila. So when your child shows up without homework in this system, please buy them a gift. It means that child organized themselves in the day and they finished what they were supposed to do. Isn't that a good thing? Do you people here struggle with procrastination? Unfinished goals? Do we, as adults? Yes. Yeah. With our children, they are taught early. I remember when our daughter was old, was a little younger, she really loves to play. So she used to tell me, Mom, now these days I have a plan that on the weekend I want to really play. So I don't want homework. So I am doing more goals every day to free up my. Do you have adults who have problem with such kind of thinking and planning? Simi hivyo? Yeah, so tunapangangwa, by the way, by those children, because it's a training that they have received from the system. Okay? So critical thinking. Critical thinking is analyzing a situation and a problem like this one, thinking ahead and saying, I need my weekend to be free. Between that freedom, now and that freedom is X amount of workload. I need to play less during the week so that my weekend can be free. Imagine an 8-year-old thinking that way. By the time they are don't you think they will go very far? Won't they? Yeah, they will. Okay? Parental involvement. So every day a parent there's always work. So a parent is involved in the planning of the academic goals, in the monitoring of the same. So a lot of what parents are complaining about in terms of CBC, we do that in AC a lot. Parent involvement is very key. We say that education is a partnership between the school and the home, so we each play our part. Patriotism, our children are taught to love their country every day. At the beginning of the term of the day, we do the national anthem, we pray for our nation, we sing the national anthem, we talk about what we call the pledge to the Kenyan flag. I pledge allegiance to the Kenyan flag and to the country for which it stands, one nation under God. May God's will be done in Kenya as it is in heaven. We do that every day. So the children learn to love their country, to pray for their country, to support. Of course, there is skills training. Many schools will incorporate a mentorship session depending on what you want to accomplish. And then there's a minimal dropout rate. Actually, we hardly have a dropout rate in our system because the American system generally is a supportive system. We support the students to get to where they want. The British system, which is what, or let me say the European, is selective. So we have pass marks, we select, we say these ones have passed, these ones have failed, and we do what we want with them. So there's a lot of support for our students. Next slide. And then curriculum design. So we have the paces. So the way that I would explain to this is that conventionally you'll have a book called English 5, which is the entire curriculum for level 5 of English. So what AC does is that, assuming that book has 12 chapters, it will take out, package, chapter by chapter. It is the teacher, so it has learning strips. It is a workbook where the child is learning and interacting with what they're learning, answering questions, engaging with activities. So that is what we call a PACE. And a PACE means Packet of Accelerated Christian Education. It's an acronym. Scope and sequence, of course, every curriculum has a scope and sequence saying this is how much you're covering and this is the sequence with which the level will progress from this to this. Single digit to second to 2 digit to 3 digit, that is called the sequence. Vocabulary, because it draws on reading and comprehension skills and also retention, there is a very deliberate attempt to ensure that every child understands the vocabulary, what it means. I don't know about you, but I learned to use words whose meanings I don't know. Are you like me? Do you use words whose meanings you don't know? So you make a big, nice sounding statement. I was at the extravaganza, for example. So then somebody tells you, define extravaganza. And you're like, I think it might mean, do you understand? So if you're sharp, you can hear a word being used, learn how to use it, and use it without knowing what you're saying. So there's an attempt to define vocabulary, again, because we are mastery based. There's a lot of interaction to ensure that the children are interacting, their attention is captured. So learning is interesting. The books we use are very colorful. Sometimes they need to color. So all these are strategies to ensure that a child keeps engaged with what they're learning. And then there's a lot of innovation, and I will not go much into that. There's inbuilt character training, I've talked about that. Inbuilt assessments, I've talked about that. You know, we're talking about honesty. And next slide. You know, children mark their own work in SCU. Yeah, they do. So every time a child goes to mark their own work, they have opportunities to lie. And because you're human, some do lie, some do copy work. But watapatikana siku ya pace test. Yeah? So we talk to them and say, no teacher is at the score station, but Jesus is there with you. He knows what you're doing. And so with time, we have children developing a character of honesty and integrity. So every time a child goes to the score station to mark their own work and they do exactly what they're supposed to do, they are getting character training for honesty. That child will go to Europe and not steal the cow and the money and the milk because they have been well trained. Did you remember that story?
Yes.
Okay, there is not very clear pictures. This is an illustration of, it's not very clear there. Just copies of what the content looks like. Very colorful, very engaging for the learner. Slide 10. Co-curriculum. The co-curriculum is Maths, English, Science, Social Studies. Word building is spelling, literature and creative writing. So our children begin to do literature in class 3. Just understanding what are the elements of language. And those are things that I did literature at university for the purpose of teaching. Some of the things that I did in my linguistics class, breaking down a sentence structure. So we had, units called syntax, morphology, phonology. Basically, those are just what is the language of the structure of language. These kids begin to do these things in class 5. Sentence diagramming. So when I'm correcting a child's English pace, I sweat. I sit down to also do it privately so that I do not embarrass myself. Do you understand? As a teacher. When we started the school, we had a child in 9th grade and they were doing geometry. We didn't have a maths teacher, but the pastor of our church did engineering at the university, so I asked him to come and help. And he told me this grade 9, the equivalent of Form 1, is what I did for my engineering course in first year of university. And he told me that even this one, the way it has been taught here, this is the correct long way of doing maths. Did you hear of short and long ways of doing maths? So he said this one has been done the long way. Any maths teachers here? Maths teachers? Oh, good. What is the long and the short way? Can you do the short way if you don't understand the long way? No. You have to understand the long way. Even for you to use a shortcut, you have to know the proper way. Understand the geography. So he said, as we are taught the short way. And that is why in exams, children have only learned a concept superficially. So if you tweak that question just a bit, umepoteza mtoto. Because they never learned the concepts the best way. So those are the things, the literature, creativity, the second language, Kiswahili, French, whatever. And then at high school, there are numerous electives depending on what is the leaning of a child. They can do calculus and math, trigonometry. They can do a lot of academic writing. Our children, before they leave, they finish, they have done, I think, about 9 pieces of academic writing. APA style with citations, with research, full academic. The things that I did at master's level, my son and my daughter, by the time they get to the university, have done that many times over. So there's a lot of preparation for tertiary education in terms of academic writing, academic research, presentation of that writing. So they actually, many SC students, when they go to the university, lecturers think that somebody is writing their work for them because it's not at the same level with their counterparts from other systems. So I think Target group, please populate the rest of the content. So it's individualized, it's non-graded. I think I have covered most of the things in the interest of time. But basically, the core philosophy of ACE is that every one of us shows up into the world as very unique individual. And every one of us needs what they know or to be guided in a very individual way. So we see that every child is a winner, every child has a potential for success, and so, by the way, we don't register failures in ACE because we insist that anybody can learn. And if you can learn, why can't you learn in a way that you succeed? So the pass mark for our system is 80%. In some levels, at the lower levels, it's 88. At the very low level, what we call the learning to read, it's actually 100%. Because we're saying, if you're going to draw on this skill of reading, what part of reading fundamental should you not know? Do you understand? So a child must get 100%. There must be 100% mastery, and the system ensures that that child has actually done that. So we don't record failed scores. If you get 79% in a test, you redo it until you have mastered the content and achieved a passing score. Okay, so the overall aim, we said, is to lead each child to the place of their full potential. So I've seen many children who've been written off in the other system. They came, the environment, they thrived, and they exceeded their expectations very much. Let's go to the next slide, segmentation. So we have the foundation, early childhood, which begins at year 3, actually year 4. So we have the foundation phase, and when a child comes at the foundation phase, the big thing you're trying to manage here is the transition from home to school. That home has been the primary environment, they need to transition. So we train the child, some children come, they're not potty trained, they can't feed themselves, they don't know how to share. So we mainly talk about those skills, social skills, and self-care skills, and then we also talk a lot about identity. Who are they in God's eyes? So the curriculum at this point is very rich on their identity. And then we have what we call general education from level 2 to 8. That's like primary school. And then we have what we call further education and training, level 8 to 5, 9 to 12. This has been revised from 9 to 12, and that's basically more or less like 8 for 4. 8 years of primary school and kindergarten, 4 years of high school, and of course 4 years of university. I think the rest of this stuff on the slide, I have more or less, please go to slide 16. I more or less covered. This is a presentation, by the way, we are making to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. This is what we were using to, they're in the process of approving the curriculum. So we had made this presentation for them. So if you look at that, we have just a basic overview of this subject offerings for ACE. So we have Group 1 academic studies. We talk about Christian citizenship, worldview studies. So for example, worldview studies, we have a program called, a course called Foundations for Living, where they talk about just what do you need to succeed as an adult, okay? We have biographical studies, we have character studies of biblical studies and men and women of faith that have lived and gone before us. Biblical studies, they do New Testament survey, Old Testament survey. There's a course called Successful Living, which is a study in the book of Proverbs. And then we have studies in faith and reason. We have a unit called Apologetics that helps the children know why they believe what they believe. That is group 1. So the Bible is at the center. Then group 2, academic studies, maths, social sciences. So social sciences, they cover art science, biology, physics, chemistry, physical science. That is the natural sciences. So social studies, they do geography, world history, languages and literature. And then group 3, it's not very clear, we have technology, physical education and health science, creative arts, performance arts. So in some cases, if a child is gifted in the performance arts, they can actually enter as part of their credits a performance. Let's say music performance, they can play the piano, they can compose music and enter it for credit. So there's a lot around that. Then there is group 4, applied studies. So a child can come and serve in church and apply for a credit for community service. So they can engage in a community activity. They must do certain hours and earn credit for that. Christian ministry option, there are vocational and elective options, self-leadership development options. So we have very many options that are non-academic as far as that is concerned. And then that is how you progress. Again, not very, very clear. There's too much lights. But basically it just shows you what we have seen. It's a diagrammatic representation of what I have just talking about, how we progress from one phase to another. And then there are those certificates that our children graduate with. A basic certificate is for children who maybe have special needs and are not able to go through the basic, the prescribed line. So we have special needs children that are not able, so they get credit for what they are able to do. And the basic certificate tries to cover content more or less up to grade 4, and a child is able to say, this is their condition, this is what they are able to do. Foundation certificate is, so special needs has a spectrum. There are children who are able to do certain things, others are not able to do. So depending on the level of the child, if they can go beyond the basic certificate, then they do the foundation certificate. And the foundation certificate is just, like I say, what a child is able to do. So this basic, foundation, and vocational are for learners who may have difficulties pursuing the normal academic path. Then general certificate is given, it's like the junior secondary. Then we have advanced certificate, which is the equivalent of Form 4. And then advanced class, if a child finishes early, they can take some college electives and get an advanced class certificate. Okay, I guess that is it for now. I'll stop here, take questions or comments, and then we'll call it a wrap. Have I done well? I need to give you a pat so that I can know. You mark for yourselves, and you mark truthfully. The score station. At the score station, Jesus is there, so don't lie. All right. So what is my assessment? My cut is, tell the person next to you the one thing that you had, one thing that has surprised you. Have you been surprised? Umeshangaa? Mbona sikusikia mtu akasema asi? Just kidding. So tell your neighbor one thing that you have learned that is distinctive. Just one.
majorly what I've come to learn about this system is that the children are somehow, they are brought up with a lot of faith in God, and at the same time, there is a lot of supervision, inner supervision with these children, unlike other institutions whereby that is not very much instilled in children. You find that children can work without a lot of supervision because of the fear of God.
Thank you. Mama Mchungaji.
I think for me, since my children have been there, but what touches me most is the holistic approach.
Very well. So that I don't seem to be favoring one side. This gentleman has.
Yeah, I've not spoken. For me, I think what's distinctive is just learning the issue that a child can mark for him or herself and have developed that discipline of just honesty. Yeah, for me, that is a distinctive thing about it.
Another representation for one side.
For me, I know everything, just like Pastor Maggie has said, is that everything looks so good because they are growing holistically. But something that has surprised me is just
Okay, so let me paraphrase what he said. He said that understanding everything in a biblical context, that even Marx, there's actually a biblical context to it. I think, any questions? Any questions? Thank you all for sharing that. Any questions? Okay, the questions are me. Okay. Let's begin here. Okay, the guy with the mic.
Okay, all of us at the outbreak to ask a second question, and thank you very much for you adequately answered my first one.
Yeah.
Now, I gather that this is a very good system. It's a good, there are so many goodies about it, and I believe that's what we want for our children, all of us.
Yeah.
My only concern is how does it fit into our education system right now?
Okay.
Because you don't want a situation like, you've had a situation where people take their children to ADCE, only for them to finish school, you don't know where to go to university. Maybe they have to go to Britain, they have to go to South Africa, because we cannot feed it up to universities. Like now you say that they do some content in high school, and by the time they get to the university, they have already done it. You know, it's like it's not fitting very well into our system.
Okay. All right. So I don't know whether I should just have all the questions be answered, or let me just answer as they come up. So how does it fit in? Our one of the bodies that was created is called the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. They're the ones that equate all current qualifications. So it's very simple. How do they fit in? When I say that they have already done, it just means that they have a head start. That when they go into the university, they're not struggling with some of the things that other students who have not been equipped that way are struggling with. But we have very many students in our local universities, both public and private, that are pursuing courses of their choice. Even medicine, even, there's so many. It's not like when we started when there were no options. Now, as a parent, you're spoiled from an option. One of the things that my husband here has on his to-do list is to visit all the universities that are offering law in this country so that our son can choose which one he wants to go to. Okay? So it's very straightforward. Universities now are mandated to determine their own admission criteria. So it's not like CITAM, when you could only be sent to university by the Joint Admission Board. So you can just apply directly. And we have, like I said, our own daughter has gone through the system. She's graduating. in November and graduating very, very well. And she's finished her university in 2.5 years. So every semester, she took the maximum load, which is 8 units a semester. So the problem was for us to find the money to pay for her. Okay? She took 8 loads, did very well. She's going to graduate with a very good GPA. And again, it's a self-discipline. She told us, I want to finish school on this year. Then she did the math. For me to finish school on that date, she said she wants to finish college before her 21st birthday. She's going to graduate 12 days before her 21st birthday. And she just said, I need to finish school before I'm 21. Let's work backward. How many units do I need to take every semester? So she'd say, do you have money to pay for 8 units? Then we would just say, Dr. Soma, leave the parental burden of coming up with this on us. She has accomplished her goal because the system trained her to set a goal and work backward so that you accomplish it. Yeah. Do you want to come for the graduation? All right. I'm just inflating the good pastor's bill for the graduation party. All right. Another question. So I hope I've answered your question. Yeah. The options are unlimited for our children. In fact, I do not advise that you send your child out for their first degree. Let them learn here, let them mature. If possible, let them pay for their second degree. Yeah, so that they also learn responsibility. So yeah, that is my advice. You can take it or leave it. All right, yes, question.
Thank you very much for taking us through the SE program. We have a lot of things that we can learn from this, and it looks to be a very, very good system. But my question is, what are some of the flip sides? What are some of the cons that we need to be aware of? Because I know a good system cannot be 100%. There's always room for improvement.
Okay, very good question. I think now, off the top of my head, in terms of the cons, because it's a foreign curriculum, one of the things we struggle with a lot is incorporating local content, like the Swahili or Kenya social studies, because our children know nobody is going to test me on this one. So even if you try to teach it in school, they make fun of it. We try to teach Swahili in our school, and we would teach things like kinyume. So you tell a child to write a car, then she writes kinyume, sita car. So they would compare notes to see who has come up with the silliest answers, and they would be laughing about it. But you know, in their head they know this Swahili is not going to appear on my transcript, so they don't take it seriously. So those are some of the content. So the schools have to be creative to know how do you, because this thing is not being tested, how do you develop an interest in the children to learn about their country? Yes, they learn about world history, world geography, civilizations and political and government setups of outside there. How do they learn? Yes, so a few challenges with contextualization, and we're still figuring out what to do that, how to go about that. Yeah.
My son, they were disadvantaged that they started the curriculum for the SCD, but as I said, they stopped somewhere in the middle. And Dennis went to class 6, the class 6. That's why we moved them. They moved their third term in class 6. And she had not done Kiswahili anywhere. Akikuwa mtihani ya Kiswahili alilia, akasema, what is this? I don't understand. But because of the training of how to set goals and prepare, within 2 years, the guy had cracked Kiswahili and he scored an A for 2 years because of that preparation of how alisema atajituma yeye mwenyewe. So they may not learn, but when given opportunity, because of what they have developed, they can easily learn something new when it is needed.
It's like you going to college in France and you have to learn French. Yeah. Have I answered your question? Good. Next.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for saying thank you.
Someone might have mentioned to you about theory X and theory Y and human beings being inherently lazy and have to be pushed. Now that this system of education is non-centered, do you have students who come and they are not able to move forward? They need so much pushing, they don't have motivation. What do you do about that? Number two, I would also want to hear something about teacher training.
Okay.
Or about the system.
All right, very good. I'll begin with the easier question, teacher training. We recruit from the general pool of locally trained teachers. And as you can see, like I said, this curriculum is not teacher driven. So really, the teacher acts as a facilitator, as a supervisor, as an academic advisor. So when a child asks an academic question, you don't teach them. You ask them questions that will lead them to discovering an answer to their own question. That is what we call learning. And what we say that with this system, what they want to do is develop a lifelong love for learning. Okay? So how do you do, one of the basic principles in the philosophy is motivation. So at the end of every day, when you finish your goals, there is a reward. You get a green dot, which is equal to merits, which you redeem at the end of the term by doing merit shopping. So everybody is looking towards merit shopping. There is what you call the honor roll A and B, that is based on you finishing a certain number of pages every day, being good in character, being good in scripture memory. And so when you attain honor roll A or B, you go for a fun trip. And which child does not want fun? So they are sufficiently motivated to work. And those who have problems, we don't say that we can't absolutely teach, but there are those children who are audio learners. So those ones, if we identify that a child is an audio learner, then we will take them aside. The teacher will explain the concept, basically allow them to remove the kink and progress. So like I said, I've not found children who dropped out because they were lazy. Yeah? And we need to challenge some of those theories. They're humanistic. Which scripture verse says that human beings are inherently lazy? Okay, actually there's one. Jeremiah 17:9. The human heart is exceedingly wicked. Who can understand it? So is laziness wickedness? It is. Yeah. If you are not pulling your whatever, it is wickedness. But we find ways of working to motivate the students to perform and achieve what they're supposed to. There's also social dynamics. You see, as much as you're individualized, you know, this my friend here is 12 years like me. What pace are they on? So there is that competition that is healthy competition. That you're being pushed to do your best. And we celebrate the children every day. Whoever has finished work, they get celebrated, they get a little reward. So there's a lot of reward system, which is part of learning and teaching. Any other questions, yes, sir?
Which is generally, it's actually a general question, which you didn't mention, you've not mentioned anything about it. You say for a year's curriculum is 72 persons. If you monetize or dollarize it, what does it mean in the balance sheet of someone's pocket?
Dollarize, so from school to school. So schools operate in different. Okay, first let me say that in terms of financial planning, as you engage with this system, it is not a cheap curriculum. Okay? It will not cost you like your local public school, which is free. Or is it free? Yeah. But I will say that we have had parents moving from high cost local schools and making a saving, a good saving. So from context to context, there are very many things that have to do with, for example, I would imagine the cost of a business premise in Machakos is not the same as the cost of a business premise in Nairobi. But what I would say is that I say it is not a cheap curriculum, I say it is a valuable curriculum. One of the things that we had a conversation with my children and I told them, you know, this education I'm paying for is the plot, it is the gift that I have given you in advance. You know the way people get married and then they are given a title deed. So then I've given you the title deed, you have the ability to go and purchase for yourself. And what you will purchase for yourself, so you value more. Even the newspaper you're given for free in the office, do you read it? But if you have paid your, how much is the newspaper these days? 160 bob. Yeah. If you have removed 60 shillings from your pocket and paid for standard newspaper, so you will read even the sports section and the classified advertisements for things you don't need. Why? You paid for it. So, sir, what gift do you want to give your daughter at her wedding day? Break it down and pay her fees now. Okay? And what I tell parents is that at the end of the day, you will pay. You will pay. Pay you must. Okay? What you must determine is how much you pay for how long. So if you pay less now and your child goes, I'm trying to paint a bad picture, and your child goes to school where the culture is terrible and the marks are good, and they come back to you an addict, will you pay? Will you pay willingly? Will you pay happily? You will pay with tears for many, many days. So I think at the end of the day is to ask yourself, what is my goal as a parent? Because we all pay, one way or another, we pay. Never is free, even the one that is called free. So you all know that it is not free. Somebody is paying for it. Yeah, someone is paying.
Maybe for his case, you may just give a general range.
So if you come to our school, for the very lowest kindergarten level, you should be willing to purchase about 150K a year. If you go to high school, you should be willing to purchase about 300K a year, so about 100 per term. Yeah, that is on average, depending on many things. With the schoolhouse, is it renting? Is it own property? So there's so many other dynamics that go into now the actual dynamics of running a business, because that is what we do. A lot of the schools, the way that this is set up is that when it's church sponsored, they're shared resources. If you have a secretary for the church, the same can serve the school. If you're an accountant for the church, the same can serve the school. If there is a hall that the church is using, the same can be used for lunch. So there's so many dynamics there, and that's why I say that it's not a cheap curriculum, but it is a valuable. Please say valuable. Something valuable. What makes something valuable? Yeah? It means it adds value to you. Your child being set up to be a successful adult, is that a valuable addition to yourself as a parent? It is. Yeah, it is. It is important. Okay, last question. Okay, so that and that will be the last.
First, just to say thank you so much. I really feel like I want to get more children. Anyway, one is not a question, it's just an encouragement. For us, I think even going through the SE, before our children move to age 4, and it's not because of our wish, it's because of some circumstances that the school had to close. But we really enjoyed time with our children, and for those of you who have seen our children, we are very tight together. It's because they don't stay so late. They don't go to school too early. At 5 a.m. you have to be at school. You get to, if I'm, I think that's the right.
That's true.
Yeah. Like if it's 8, it's 8. Of course they have to keep time. And so for us, it was really something. Especially like for me, because I told God, if you give me children, I would really love to raise them in the ways of God and have time with them. So it really gave us a lot of time together. Because we used to pick them at 4. And you see, you can cook, you can go for swimming, you can do many things together. Now the question is, like, they always, I think in a year, they revisit that subject of SE 3 times. Every time they come back, Mom, we really miss SE. But like for Dennis, who is in Hong Kong, there's nothing we can do. My question is it possible if I'm from 2 to transfer to SE?
Yes, it is possible. That is a simple and straight answer. So recently during the COVID season, we signed up our children to a sister curriculum for ACE called Ignition, and it's bigger, it's better, it is richer, and it doesn't lose the beauty of ACE. So a child who is in Form 2 can actually join Ignition and progress, and even transfer some of their 844 credits for Form 1 and 2, so that they only do 2 years of secondary school, so they don't have to go back. So that's one of the advantages that ACE has Ignition has over ACE, that you can transfer your credits in case you're joining at high school level, so long as you got a passing grade, which in our context, if you got anything that translates to a C+ and above, you can actually transfer that credit at no extra cost, so that you only do the balance of the credit requirements for graduation. So, come on board, there's room for you. Yes, sir.
Actually, my question, I have 2 questions. Number 1 is something you talked about, parental involvement.
Yeah.
And maybe just in brief, I'd like you to give specifics what exactly the parent expects you to do, because we see we are doing so much. We are getting beans at the supermarket, 6 GM, yeah, just a lot. So is it the same, since you said it is copied from the same, to what extent is the parent involved? So that's the first question. The second question is there a national body in which these schools belong? Because as you have heard, there was a school somewhere and it was closed. So what is the risk am I getting myself into this school? That is there security that this school is going to be there in the next 10 years? Since I believe it is not like a national thing. And in the issue of quality, how does a school check its quality? Is it from within? Is there a body? So that all I'm saying is everything is self. It is us deciding to open a school. Is it us even checking on ourselves?
Okay. So you're talking about matters quality assurance. Okay, you know how we taught us many things. I program we have, it's called the Kenya Private Schools Association. And COVID told us that even the things that were supposedly safe to invest in were not actually safe. People used to think that schools cannot be touched, but Kenya Private School Association alone, we registered over 1,000 schools closing. Some of them even high-end across the spectrum. So I don't believe that people start schools to close them, at least not my kind of people. So continuity, what I would say is that before you sign up for a school, it would be good for you to really interact with what is their administration, what is the vision of the school, what is their heart for that school. Because then, like you say, it's about understanding this person. Now, with ACE, quality assurance is all the way in South Africa. So they have we have trainings, they train our teachers, or somebody had asked a question about teacher training. So we just train them with the methodologies and the things that they need to do, the procedures for ACE, what they need to do, what are the parameters of achievement for the students, because really a teacher in this system is an enforcer of the rules rather than a primary instructor. So accountability, we have a caucus of Christian schools that I know that our school belongs to. So it's not the accountability structure is not very, very strong as of now, but there is the intention to build it up. ACE is very, as much as I'm saying it is 50 years old plus. In Kenya, it is very young. We are just completing our first cycle of education, of the educational journey. Yeah, so I don't know, that's the best I could say about that. Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then there's also the option of homeschooling. So there's a homeschool support group. When push comes to shove, that's also one of the options that you can pursue. Parental involvement is not the CPC kind, so fear not. You will not get bills at the supermarkets. It's not changing, it's not morphing. One of the things about CPC is that it morphs as it goes. As of now, nobody knows what assessments look like for class 6 because it's still morphing. This one, the projects are the same. So the moment your child picks a page that has a project, it's on the first page. Page 1 is introduction, page 2 is vocabulary, page 3 is the project description, what do they need, and it takes about an average of 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the child, to finish a piece. So you have 1 to 2 weeks notice to do whatever needs to be done. So the idea is that before they do the pace test, that they have completed the project. So and the teacher will have what we call a communication group. So there's a lot of communication from the teacher. How is your child progressing? Which you are supposed to respond to on a daily basis. So by the time a child is falling through the cracks, really it means that the communication system has broken down for quite a while. So it's the healthy kind of involvement. It's not random, it's not arbitrary, it is predictable. Yeah, so it's manageable. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. So it's a healthy. What I'd say is that the parental involvement that is required in PC context is what I would call minimum requirements. But we still get parents who are not involved. So I'd say that in the matter of saying that there is numerous opportunities for you to be involved with your child's education, you have to be intentional with parents to actually be involved. Happy? He's not happy, he's okay. We will accept that. All right, let me stop there. Okay.
Well, I feel I want to just approach you personally. In a way, I just want to talk about the chance. I think it's actually a good system. I've never known so much about it, but I'm saying this with a surety because when I did my undergraduate, that was in Moi, we have a system actually known as problem-based learning. Problem-based learning was a system that was developed from Sweden, and it takes you through actually what you're talking about, that my lecturers never really gave us the content. They just give you direction on what to do, and then you go, and it gives you a kind of a discipline to go and look for what to do. And unfortunately, this system was only in medical school, it was not in other places. And now that I'm doing my postgraduate in Nairobi, I can see the difference. And comparing the two, I wish just that place did have it. I know probably medical school universities they have been having some challenges, but I'm actually now content about it. But unfortunately, there are also some, now this is personal, some cons which he had mentioned about. So my question would be, how do you Kenyanize these weaknesses that it has? And that is Swahili. I think you tried mentioning about Swahili, but for now social studies in terms of geography, in terms of history, how do we Kenyanize it? You know, even when we have vehicles, we tropicalize them, we go and put springs to the up and all that. So how do we have that leeway to Kenyanize or to Africanize this system such that your child will not be deficient of what was happening in Kenya earlier, or maybe just knowing more about your geography and so on. So what is there that leeway for you people to?
Okay, so one of the things that that is on my to-do list is try and come up with that curriculum and asking myself what are the must-dos, must-knows, need to know things about Kenya. Because even us who are fully fledged H44 bona fides, there's still learning gaps. There's still things about, for example, if I ask you to name the 47 counties of Kenya, can you? Mwalimu, name them. All of them. How many of us know all the... Okay, let me go closer now. No, I'm talking about us. Do we know? Us, do we know? If I told you to come and stand here and name them, will you? Like this, you will? Where you come from, do you know the sub-counties?
Yes.
Yeah. Sub-counties, do you know the words?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so I'm trying to say that when you give your children a love for learning, when you're able to instill that value, love for learning, then they can find out what they need to do. Yeah. So I guess that's what we... Oh, okay, very good.
Maybe just to add, there's actually been an effort to do that, and that's why we have the Swahili. They're now making it into our pace, like the others, and also the social studies. Our children need a bit of the social studies, and I know several of the schools. So there's an association of SE schools, and they talk about that. In each of the schools, they're going to do social studies and Swahili and a few others, but they're still working on producible standard curriculum. So the effort is there.
Yes, that is true. That is big picture. Here, dealing with the details, it's not there. All right. I think that was the last question. Thank you so much for being such an interactive audience. Please clap for yourself. Give your neighbor a pat on the back. Tell them thank you for being attentive. God bless you. Thank you very much. I'll just ask the pastor to give a vote of thanks, and then after this we have some little refreshments and tea. And the parents who are interested in seeing how the classroom looks like, to see how the pieces look like,